to me, you are a celebrity. Okay. I would love to start kind of in growing up, and you share this magnificent story.
I think the story that you're referring to has a little something to do with this. I keep it on my desk. I travel it with me. It's probably I have a 55 Porsche Speedster in my garage that's worth, I don't know how much, hundreds of thousands. This is probably worth more to me. This was the exact toy I was playing with in 1980 in the mud. And we didn't have a lot of toys, which is why poor kids saved their toys. I was playing with this in the mud, unsupervised, because that's what you do when you're poor. And your mom's making $5,000 a year or $4,000 a year. And I heard this noise. And I looked up, and it was the exact 79 Kelly Green Turbo that I was playing with in the mud. And like any unsupervised broke kid in a neighborhood where there's not a lot of Porsche driving by, I did what you would have done, Bart. I ran after it, right? And I kind of knew it was hard for me to keep up with a Porsche. Not that he was speeding. 20 is plenty, everybody. But we didn't have those signs in the 80s. I tried to keep up as much as I could, but I kind of knew where it was going because there was some person in our neighborhood with some semblance of wealth. His name was John Carroll. He was an attorney. My mom used to tell me, if you want to make, she was from South Boston, if you want to make money, you got to be a doctor or a lawyer. And you're not smart enough to be either of those. You should work at a gas station. But I thought, man, he's probably going to the lawyer's house, which he was. I thought it was the lawyer actually bought a Porsche. It wasn't. Long story short, I don't want to eat up the whole podcast. I waited for an hour and a half for the guy that drove this car to come out, thinking he was a drug dealer or a rock star or somebody that this attorney was representing or the attorney. It was none of those. He was a sales rep for a company called Texas Instruments. And it was one of those moments in life. I don't know what everybody believes in, God, Allah, the force, whatever. It was one of those moments for me because number one, this gentleman took the time to talk to me. Number two, he talked to me like I was a mature adult. And number three, he used some curse words, which were pretty cool for an 8-year-old. So I'll use the word that he used, Bart. Sorry, on the podcast, listeners, cover your ears. But here's how it went down. I waited. The guy came out. He was wearing a suit, went to get in the Porsche. I said what every broke kid would say, Mister, is this your car? He said, yes. I said, what do you do to get this car? He said, I'm in sales. I said, sales? I was mirroring before I even knew it. He goes, yeah, I work for a company called Texas Instruments. We sell computers. And I said, that must be the best computer on the planet. And he said, no, son, it's a piece of shit. And I immediately kind of felt bad. I was like, oh, because I knew who Mr. Carroll was, and we'll get to it, but I had normally felt bad for Mr. Carroll anyways. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, he's taking advantage of Mr. Carroll. And he said, but kid, that's not what sales is about. Sales is about slowing down and learning about people and understanding where they want to go with their life and figuring out if you can help them and being able to articulate how you can help them. And he says, I am the only person at this company. It's called a TI-99-4. We can't sell it to save our lives. This is pre-Microsoft, by the way, guys. We can't sell this computer to save our lives, but I can. He goes, because I've realized this computer, although it's a POS, it does one thing and it does one thing really well. We like to call it a calendar entry. What that means, he goes, do you know Mr. Carroll? I said, yeah. He goes, but do you know Mr. Carroll? And when he moved his head like that, I knew what he was talking about. Mr. Carroll had Parkinson's. Okay. And we would see Mr. Carroll drove a Volvo. That was the nicest car within a mile. And his head would be going like this when he drove. And he said, here's the situation with Mr. Carroll. His legal office is in Westminster, Colorado. That's 35 miles away. He has a choice. He has to take medication at 3 p.m. every day to stop his tremors because they get worse as the day goes on. He can't legally drive a car after he takes that medication. So he has two choices, kid. He can leave his office about 2:30, drive the 35 miles home, take his medication, and he works half a day. That's not getting it done for him. Or he can stay in the office, take the medication, and pay somebody or take a taxi home. That's too expensive and it's not fun, and he doesn't have personal freedom. Here's what we're doing for him today. I've put up a TI-99-4 in his house. He's going to have all of his appointments with clients before 2:30. Then he's going to take notes on a pad and a piece of paper. He's going to drive home. He's going to take his medication. He's going to use this computer to enter that information into what we call a calendar entry that his bookkeeper can then put into the books and bill the clients.
Yeah.
He's able to now work a full day's work with his Parkinson's and thrive. And I was like,
Yeah, unbelievable, right? 8 years old. First of all, for you, Matt, to even stop to approach this person driving the Porsche, for that person to be able to share that much information with you, I can see why it made such an impact.
And I think this is why I spend way too much money than any normal human being on cars. I've got some pretty nice cars, and anytime a kid is like, wow, I'm always trying to give them a little pep talk to try and put that back. But I remember I was like, I said to him, I said, well, and this is cool for our older audience. The younger people aren't going to know what I'm talking about. And by younger, I mean, if you're under, say, 45, I said to him, I said, wow, man, that's really cool. Sales sounds really awesome. I couldn't be good at sales because I'm not doing very well in school, and I can't really read very well and spell really well. I had an undiagnosed eye problem, which later on they figured out it was no problem, fixed it. But he said something else to me, that he said, son, never be self-deprecating. And he said, and by the way, I've got you covered. And he went to the front of this thing, and the engine's in the back. He went to the front and he popped it up, and he goes, here, take this. I got your spelling covered. It was called a Speak and Spell, also manufactured by Texas Instruments. I think the MSRP in 80 was $79, which would be like $250 in today's money. And I said, I made one other smart ass comment. I said, my brother's going to kick my butt and take it, but thank you. And he goes, come on back. And he gave me 2 of them. He goes, this one to your bro. Have a great day. And I was like, blown away. So at that point, I was like, oh my God, that was the coolest engagement ever. And I don't know, again, second God, Allah, force, secret moment. This one hit me like a ton of bricks. So I was broke. There was no food in the refrigerator. We were on the government hot lunch program. And I was like, this guy was onto something. There's some information there. So what I did was I became the skinny kid with this crappy JCPenney yellow bike. I'd ride my bike around, but I wouldn't ride it around to just everybody's house. I started looking for inventors, business owners, people that were of high worth or of high value or of high influence, judges around Boulder, Colorado. Now, here's the secret. I was known as the kid. I'd be like, do you have a dog? Yes, we do. I'll pick up the poop. I'll walk the dog. I noticed you had some weeds. Would love to pull those weeds. Would love to sweep those rocks. I couldn't mow lawns because I didn't have access to a lawnmower. But anything I could do with these 2 hands, I would do it. And they would all say the same thing. Well, how much money do you want to do that? And I don't know how I came up with this. I'm smart, but I ain't this smart. This was luck. I said, I don't want any money. And they're like, what do you want? And I'm like, I just want to hang out. I just want to learn. I just want to be around. I didn't have a dad at the time. I didn't say it. Probably should have. I would have gotten a lot more response. But you know what? There was 8 or 10 people. 8 out of 10 would be like, nah, well, I'm all set, right? Or if you want to pick that up, I'll give you a nickel, which I would. 25 cents they probably gave me. I don't think I ever got as low as a nickel. But there was a few people that were like, okay, come back here on Tuesday. And the next thing I know, I was spending time with people that were making big deals, that were in charge of huge organizations. And I listened, and I used what we call at eastonuniversity.com. People learn about this. Your 2 most important: never go into battle without your sword and your shield. I always took notes, even though I couldn't spell and my handwriting was illegible to everybody else except me. And I started to learn things, and I started to pick up things.